the church and, you know,
Well, you have to hold others
Well, life is
up
so
to
much
that
fun, how
standard
can you
too.
not be like that?
Like I had a friend who was going to baptize her second child. I said, I'll come if you start going to church, because you baptized the first one and you don't take her. And then her husband got really mad at me, but she was glad I said it, because that very next week she went to mass with her father. So it worked.
there are promises we make.
Yeah.
They are not just rituals that we go through that, you know, they're losing their meaning, but these things that we do matter for forming not only our faith lives, but we're forming our children's faith lives in living a particular way, setting examples for them. You know, inviting your neighbors, if they don't go to church, to come with you. Even just having a conversation with somebody, being willing to share your story.
Like what Jane was saying, if everyone had that gift, think nobody'd be doing what you're doing.
Nobody writes his damn constitutions and insurance.
But there's a variety of gifts, we can't all be like the same person. You
No.
do what you're doing by somebody else, but don't think that that's.
Oh, I gave that thought up earlier on. I mean that I just didn't have that. Well, no, what I aspire to is to live such a life that others will see me. And yet that it will look different, and they want to know why my life is, you know, seems.
I've heard of that stuff.
We're just doing different girls.
Let's go to 1 Thessalonians. 1 Thessalonians 4. Now, why 1 Thessalonians? Well, 1 Thessalonians is one of those texts that you know is interpreting again how this end time might be. It is a proof text for rapture theology. I think it's one of those where we all kind of wonder, you know, is this how it's going to be? You know, is this a metaphor for something else? So, if somebody wants to read 1 Thessalonians 4:13 to 17. Don't all jump at it at once.
Our friends, we want you to know the truth about those who have died, so that you will not be sad, as are those who have no hope. We believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will take back with Jesus those who have died believing in him. What we are teaching you now is the Lord's teaching. We who are alive on the day the Lord comes will not go ahead of those who have died. There will be the shout of command, the archangel's voice, the sound of God's trumpet, and the Lord himself will come down from heaven. Those who have died believing in Christ will rise to life first. Then we who are living in that time will be gathered up along with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will always be with the Lord. And then encourage one another with these words.
Now, what translation? That's the good news. Is that what yours says, Don? Does somebody want to read a different translation? Either NIV, NRSV,
But
MOUSE?
NRSV.
Okay.
But we do not want to be uninformed brothers and sisters about those who have died, so that you may not grieve as others do who have no hope. For since we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so, through Jesus, God will bring with him those who have died. For this we declare to you by the word of the Lord, that we who are alive,
Okay. So some translations will read, "We do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep, or those who have fallen asleep, or those who sleep in death." The two translations we heard said, "who have died." So what is the concern that Paul's trying to address as you listen to this? Now, he says it right at the beginning.
Those that have died, that they still will be with God and with Jesus.
Right. So there's a concern amongst the church in Thessalonica that the pagan influence, there were inscriptions around Thessalonica that said something to the effect of, "I was not, I became, I am not, I care not," right? The idea that there is no resurrection of the dead. There is no life after this life. So the people in the church are, they're anxious. They are expecting Christ is coming back soon, and he hasn't come back. And what if he comes back? What's gonna, is there the resurrection? This is what you taught us. Is this true? The resurrection of the dead? How is that going to happen? I mean, some of the same questions that we have in terms of Christ coming back. How's it going to happen? Who goes first? Is it A through L? Is it M through Z? What's the process that it goes through? So the reason for the different translations of those who are asleep and those who have died, the Greek word that is used is a euphemism for death, right? So of course we hear people today say, they're asleep in Christ, or, oh, they look like they're sleeping, or, how good they look in the casket. Nobody looks good in the casket,
Actually,
right?
my father. Because
Ed?
he sleeps like that. He sleeps
Pretty good.
He does. He sleeps like that. He
Okay.
sleeps like he's in a casket. Although he was cremated, so we won't do that.
Ed, I'd sleep with one eye open if I were
No, I start out that way,
Well, that's the only way.
like this.
So I lay all the time.
And as I relax and I roll over my sides.
So I get to sleep and relax with
You
these.
need a bigger casket so you can roll over.
That scare a lot of people when I roll over the casket.
So Paul starts out in verse 13. This is your concern. So what does he say in verse 14? We believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep with him. What is your concept of those who have died? Do you think that they're asleep in Christ? Do you think that they're dancing the jig in heaven? Do you believe?
They saw the light and they went.
No, I'm serious. What is it that you?
Catholics believe like what they call purgatory.
Well, we aren't. We don't believe in purgatory. We know some do, but what's happening?
Say your 8 hours is a blink of an eye, so you won't know it.
Right. So some, the body may be asleep. Maybe the spirits is.
But anybody that died and came back always said they saw someone, they went somewhere. They didn't say they went to sleep.
Yeah, no,
I'm
I
gonna
think
sleep
they're.
tonight, I hate you.
Well,
They really died, they said that.
those that remember.
They didn't really die.
Not everybody has a near-death experience. Not everybody.
Dead, you're dead.
Some people go the other way. But for us, we believe that, we say every week, we believe in the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. So, but you have to understand.
Yeah, if it's just the body, or is it,
Yes, that's what she said.
What's that?
is this just the body, or is this just?
What, the resurrection? The resurrected body, the examples we have with Jesus is he can go through walls, he can eat fish, he can disappear, he can reappear. We have many different descriptions of the resurrected body, so it's kind of hard But there's a belief that something is there, something. Life with Christ, life with God, golden streets, crystal palaces, a big field with lots of, mansions, rooms, right?
Whatever your, I feel like it's whatever your heaven is, whatever makes you the happiest, that's what's going to be whoever you want to reunite with in heaven. Just like hell is going to be your worst nightmare. So everyone's hell could be different.
Right, there's a belief, and I forget where I read this, there's a belief that depending on what your last thought is, before you die, if your thought is of heaven and whatever you think of heaven, that will be I forget where I read this. And if your thought is of hell, then that's what your hell will be when you die, Hopefully most of us, when we're dying, I just read that somewhere. That's just somebody's belief, there are many different belief systems in terms of what happens. But we're expecting the resurrection of the dead and the life to come, whatever that life might be. But Jesus says, it's the age to come that we are with God, we are with Christ. Then he says in verse 15, according to the Lord's word, we tell you that we who are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep. So those who have died in Christ, those who have died in faith, will seemingly go to the head of the line. Which we expect that they're right. You have different, you see these different images. Is that the bodily resurrection then? Meeting in the air? We're going to talk about that. It's...
I get confused with this.
Sure.
Isn't our earthly body just the vessel for our soul? I mean, we don't need the body. When I think of going to heaven, I just think of, I don't know, like my little twinkly lights.
That's what I'm saying. If you dug up the casket, the body's still there.
No, we don't need the body. I don't
We
think
don't
too
need
bulked
that
out.
body after we die.
No, we don't.
Well,
Paul
And-
says
and-
we'll be transformed into another body.
Right.
Yeah,
There will be a body that is recognizable.
right.
Haircut's a better one.
It's not going to be the physical body.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
I
that's
have